I've been doing this job for 2 weeks. I'm 19 years old, it's almost midnight, and I'm standing inside a stranger's house with the door closed behind me, holding their pizza, while a woman I've never met shoves homemade bread in my face and tells me not to worry, it's not poisonous. It was the summer after my freshman year of college. I needed money, so I took a job delivering pizzas on the late shift, usually working until around 2 a.m. The shop itself was a disaster. Dirty, falling apart, the kind of place where you just tried not to look too closely at anything. But the tips were good, so I dealt with it. I had one personal rule I stuck to. I don't go inside. Drop the pizza, take my tip, leave. Simple. I'm a naturally anxious person, and I figured the less time I spent standing in strangers' doorways at midnight, the better. For 2 weeks, that rule kept me feeling okay about the job. Then came the last delivery of the night. It was a house on the east side of town, close to midnight. Nothing about it looked unusual from the outside. The street was dark, but quiet. The kind of quiet that feels normal at that hour. I grabbed the pizza, walked up to the door, and knocked. The man who answered was large, shirtless, older with a beer belly, and he was already smiling at me before I'd even said a word. Something about that smile felt off immediately. I couldn't explain it. It just did. I held up the pizza, ready to hand it over and go. He told me to come inside. I said, "No thanks, I'm fine right here." And that's when he said something that stopped me cold. "Come on in, it's freezing out. We don't want the cold air getting in." It was summer in Colorado. It was easily 70 degrees outside. I should have left. Looking back, that was the moment. That single sentence was my off-ramp, and I didn't take it. Instead, I told myself I was overreacting, that he was just a weird old guy, that I was being paranoid. So I took one step inside, just one, keeping myself close to the door. "No, come all the way in," he said. "It's cold out." I stepped inside. He closed the screen door. Then he closed the main door behind me. I heard both of them latch shut, and I just stood there holding that pizza, doing the thing anxious people do, frantically convincing myself everything was fine. I looked around the living room, and my brain genuinely took a second to process what I was seeing. Stuffed animals everywhere, covering every single surface. The couches, the chairs, the tables, the windowsills, stacked on the floor and the corners. Hundreds of them, all just staring, glass eyes in every direction. The room felt frozen, like a museum exhibit of something I couldn't quite name. The man called out toward the kitchen, "Honey, the pizza's here." I could see his wife through the doorway. She was cooking, actually standing at the stove cooking something, which struck me as strange. Why order a pizza if you're already making food? But before I could think too hard about that, she turned around and started walking toward me. She was holding something outstretched in front of her, arms extended like an offering. It took me a second to realize it was a small loaf of bread. She walked right up to me, closer than felt normal, and held it out. "Eat this banana bread," she said. I started to decline, and she cut me off. "Don't worry," she said, completely deadpan. "It's not poisonous." I want you to think about that sentence for a second. Not, "I just made it," not, "It's delicious, you should try some." Her instinct, the first thing that came to her mind to say to get me to eat something, was to tell me that it wouldn't kill me. I told her I was on a diet, politely, trying not to show that my heart was pounding. She didn't move, didn't lower her hand, just stood there, arms still outstretched, watching me, waiting. I said no again. She started screaming at me. Eventually she stopped, turned around and went back into the kitchen without another word, which almost scared me more than the screaming. I turned to the man and told him I really had to get going. He nodded and said he just needed to find some change for my tip. And then he started searching the room, digging through couch cushions, moving stuffed animals around, checking surfaces, taking his time. I've thought about this part a lot since it happened. When you order a pizza, you know the pizza is coming. You have time to get your money ready. Nobody roots through their couch at midnight looking for quarters, unless they're not actually looking for quarters. I stood there for several minutes, pizza still in my hands, watching this man slowly move through his stuffed animal living room while his wife stood silently in the kitchen. The only sounds were him rummaging, the faint noise from the stove, and the blood in my ears. That's when I knew I needed to leave. Not in a minute, right now. I told him I was leaving, and I reached for the door handle. He handed me a few quarters he'd found, took the pizza, smiled. I walked to my car, got in, and drove away. When I got back to the shop, I told my supervisor everything. He shrugged and sent me out on another delivery. I never went back to that house again. Here's the thing I've sat with since it happened. I have no idea what was actually happening in that house, and that's what bothers me the most, because there are really only two explanations. Either that couple was completely harmless, just profoundly, extraordinarily strange people who terrified a teenager by accident, or I ate nothing, I touched nothing, and I got out. And one of those scenarios is a lot scarier than the other.
It was supposed to be a simple double order. Medical facility, first stop. I've delivered to hospitals, clinics, care homes, you name it. Never had a problem. I'd pull up, and right away something feels slightly off. The lobby is quieter than it should be. No receptionist at the desk. Just a long fluorescent hallway stretching ahead of me. The order required a PIN, which I'd never needed at a place like this before. I couldn't reach the customer. I'm standing there, about to cancel, when a woman walking out holds the door for me without a word and just keeps walking. Doesn't look at me, doesn't say anything. I head inside, manage to track down the PIN, complete the delivery. Simple enough. I turn around to leave. The doors don't open. I try the other set, locked. I'm standing in this hallway, and I start looking around for staff, someone, anyone. There are people there. They can clearly see me. I'm in a DoorDash bag, holding a receipt, obviously a delivery driver, and every single one of them just looks through me, like I'm not there, like I'm nothing. I'm trying to stay calm, but my heart is hammering. I start asking directly, "Excuse me, can someone let me out?" Nothing. One woman looks me dead in the eyes and turns away. I'm genuinely considering calling 911 at this point. What do I even say? I'm trapped inside and nobody will help me? And then the woman who let me in earlier reappears from down the hall. She's heading for the exit. I don't say a word. I just fall into step right behind her, and the moment those doors open, I walk out, and I do not stop walking until I'm back at my car. I reported it to DoorDash immediately. I still don't fully understand what I walked into that day. They saw me deliver the food. They knew exactly why I was there, and not one of them would let me leave. The second delivery on that double, I almost didn't take it. I just sat in my car for a few minutes, hands on the wheel. Sometimes I still think about that hallway and all those people who looked right at me and decided to do nothing.
So I live in a small town right outside of Knoxville, Tennessee. It has grown a lot recently, and DoorDash has been a pretty good side gig lately. I usually work every night from about 7 p.m. until I make around $50 or so, and then I quit. Well, last night I did not get started until around 7:30 because of some school stuff with my kid. I usually hit my goal around 8:30 or 8:45 before it gets really dark, but last night I was out until around 10 p.m., and it got weird. Last delivery of the night, I get an order for a single half-gallon of milk from Walgreens, 6 miles away. Anything outside of 3 miles in this town gets pretty rural, and street signs and house numbers are a crapshoot, so it is a pain, especially in the dark. But this was a $12 order, a 2-to-1 ratio, easy, quick stop. Let us go. I get to the street, and of course there is no street sign. It is all dirt and pitch black. Pretty typical for this area, so I'm not freaked out yet. I turn onto the street, and there are 2 trailers off in the distance. House numbers? Of course not. So I follow the pin and guess that I'm going to the right one. I get to the driveway, and it has a closed gate covered in a couple dozen stickers. Beware of dog, private property, keep out, do not tread on me, various political stickers, and then one piece of wet printer paper taped to the gate with the words, DoorDash, come on in, written in marker. Great. So I get out of my car, open the gate, and make my way up the junk-covered driveway to the front door. There is a small camper off to the left, about the size of a truck bed, with tie-dyed curtains over the windows and loud music playing inside. Weird, but whatever. I go to the front door. Through the glass, I can see a lady who looks like she's about 120 years old, sitting in a chair, asleep, holding a tiny chihuahua. I check the order, and it says, hand it to me. Great. There is no doorbell, so I knock. The dog absolutely loses his mind, startles the old lady awake, and she starts screaming, what the heck is going on? I say through the door, I have a DoorDash for Johnny. The old lady looks around, completely confused, and screams the name Johnny into the house. And then Johnny appears. An old man, weighing all of about 100 pounds, comes stumbling around the corner, wearing nothing but a very loose pair of tighty-whities. He shuffles up to the door and just stands there staring at me. I say again, I have a DoorDash for Johnny. Am I in the right place? He says, yeah, opens the door, snatches the bag out of my hand, slams the door, and stumbles back. Okay, delivery is complete. Let us get out of here. I turn around and start walking down the front steps, and that is when the camper door swings open. What looks like 30 tiny dogs pour out of it, all absolutely losing their minds at me. And standing in the doorway is what looks like a 15-year-old kid rocking back and forth, laughing at me. Behind him, the room is lit up in black light with what looks like a disco ball spinning from the ceiling, sending light bouncing off every wall. That is when Johnny kicks the front door back open, still in the underwear, this time holding a flashlight in one hand and a bottle of liquor in the other, screaming at the kid in the camper to shut up. The old lady is still screaming inside, and I am standing in the driveway surrounded by about 30 tiny ratty dogs in the pitch black. I walked very quickly to that gate, closed it behind me, got in my car, and got out of there as fast as I could. It felt like I was on the set of a twisted horror movie. I'm done doing this job at night. I never get these orders in the daylight, man. Never.